What if I told you that the greatest threat to Roman Reigns didn't rise from within the WWE locker room, but just walked through the front door, unannounced, with no loyalty, no leash, and no intention of leaving quietly? This isn't hype. This isn't just another debut. This is a hostile takeover. The lights dimmed on Monday Night Raw. Crowd buzzing. Commentators mid-sentence. Then boom, a beat drops. The Titantron flashes unfamiliar colors. Out walks a towering figure that the WWE Universe wasn't ready for. Over 6 feet 8 inches. Chiseled like a monolith. Energy? Volcanic. The camera tries to catch his stare, cold. Focused. Unforgiving. The commentary table scrambles to find the name. But the arena already knows. Hikuleo has arrived. What came next wasn't a dramatic promo or a handshake. No signature stare down. No scripted "I'm here to make a mark." No. Hikuleo made his intentions felt the old-school way. He showed up, stared down anyone who dared to make eye contact, and left bodies in his wake. An unprovoked ambush. Not to make a statement, but to make a point. By the time the cameras cut backstage, the locker room was already on edge. And when WWE Digital caught up with him for comment, Hikuleo didn't mince words. This isn't just a visit. This is a takeover. Let that sink in. Not an invitation. Not a request. A takeover. And then came the warning. The one that shook the bloodline of the company itself: no one is safe. Titles, targets. Allies, temporary. Enemies, inevitable. In a world where every major WWE debut gets teased, spoiled, or underwhelms, this was something different. There were no leaks. No vignettes. No press. Just violence. Shock. Momentum. Because Hikuleo isn't just any free agent. He's wrestling royalty, bred in the battlefield of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Raised under the shadow of Haku. Aligned with the feared guerrillas of destiny. Built in the mold of those who don't ask for chances, they take them. And in the middle of a landscape where Roman Reigns has reigned unchallenged for nearly 4 years, Hikuleo just did what nobody else has had the guts, or the firepower, to do. He declared war on everything the tribal chief built. Let's get one thing straight, this wasn't a rivalry. This wasn't a feud. This was a storm front. And the bloodline? They weren't ready for it. Because for years, Roman Reigns has been flanked by loyalists, sycophants, and strategic minds. He's built a dynasty of dominance. But Hikuleo? He's not impressed. He's not looking to join. He's not looking to negotiate. He's here to dismantle. His presence says it all. His silence in the ring? Louder than any promo. And those words backstage? They weren't a promo. They were a declaration of war. So what now? What does it mean when the head of the table isn't the one calling the shots? What happens when the predator becomes the hunted? The WWE Universe is now asking the question no one expected this soon: could this be the beginning of the end of the bloodline? Because Hikuleo's message didn't just target Roman. It was aimed at the very core of WWE's power structure. Titles, targets. No champion is safe. Not Roman. Not Rollins. Not anyone. Allies, temporary. That means trust has a timer. Tag teams? Fractions. Enemies, inevitable. That's the most chilling part. Because Hikuleo isn't avoiding war. He needs it. He welcomes it. He's not playing chess. He's flipping the board. And here's what makes this story even more compelling. This isn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a stunt. This was the first move. In this video, we're diving deep into the shockwave that Hikuleo just sent through WWE. We're unpacking the moment that started it all, who Hikuleo really is. And why he's more dangerous than anyone thinks. What this means for Roman Reigns, the Bloodline, and the entire WWE locker room. Fan reactions, internal fallout, and what's likely coming next. And finally, the one burning question: can WWE survive what Hikuleo just set in motion? Stick around to the end. You don't want to miss where this is headed. Because this isn't just about one debut. This isn't just about one man. This is about legacy, power, and the brutal truth that even kings bleed. Roman Reigns may be the tribal chief. But Hikuleo just walked in, looked around, and said, "I don't see a kingdom. I see an opportunity." He's not bluffing. He's not playing. And the storm is already here. So smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let us know in the comments, who should Hikuleo target first? Because the takeover? It's already begun. It all started like any other episode of Monday Night Raw. Pyro, energy, commentary hype, and the steady rhythm of another primetime show settling into gear. The audience was loud but routine. A few matches had passed, some promos aired, and everyone was waiting for the big moment of the night, maybe a title tease, maybe a Cody Rhodes promo, maybe something involving Seth Rollins or Judgment Day. No one expected what came next. The lights didn't flicker. There was no warning. There were no teaser packages from last week. It wasn't even built up on WWE social media. The music hit, one that most of the WWE audience had never heard before. At first, people were confused. The Tron glitched, then flashed a name across the screen: Hikuleo. Silence. Confusion. Then, recognition. A gasp swept through the hardcore section of the crowd, those tuned into NJPW, the true wrestling junkies, the ones who knew what this meant. The commentators scrambled to react. Corey Graves' voice cracked slightly, uncertain but trying to sound confident. Kevin Patrick asked, "Wait, can that be? Is that?" And then they saw him. 6'8". Long black hair. That unmistakable scowl. A figure cut from stone. It was him. Hikuleo. Live. On Raw. The camera cut to the crowd, shock, excitement, phones instantly held high, capturing what they instinctively knew was a moment. Not a gimmick. Not a run-in. A declaration. He walked down the ramp slowly, eyes locked forward. No theatrics. No smile. No merchandise. Not even a mic in hand. Just presence. Pure, overwhelming presence. The kind you don't teach or fake. The kind you inherit through legacy and carve out through violence. The ring was empty. There was no match in progress. This was no interruption. It was a hijacking. As he stepped into the ring, security began to appear near the stage. Not because he was scheduled for a segment, but because no one knew if this was even authorized. Was he supposed to be here? Did someone backstage mess up? Was this an invasion? Questions flew through the production truck and the commentary table. Then, chaos. Without warning, Akira Tozawa, who had a segment up next, came down the ramp as part of his scheduled time slot. Tozawa is beloved but undersized. He wasn't meant to be part of anything serious that night. But unfortunately, he walked into a buzzsaw. As Tozawa approached the ring, Hikuleo turned, eyes narrowing. No words. He moved with precision and cold purpose. In a heartbeat, Tozawa tried to play it off, maybe even shake his hand or back away. He didn't get the chance. One boot. A thunderous slam. Silence in the crowd. Tozawa didn't even have time to process what was happening. It wasn't a heel beatdown. It was a public execution. A message to the locker room, and to anyone watching. Cameramen didn't know where to shoot. Security hesitated. Commentators didn't say much. What was there to say? Hikuleo hadn't been advertised. Hadn't signed a Raw contract publicly. Hadn't been seen in a WWE ring in any capacity before tonight. This wasn't a debut. It was an ambush. Then, as quickly as it started, he left the ring. Not running. Not hiding. No gloating. He simply stepped out of the ring, walked up the ramp, and exited through the back, not even the side ramp that talent usually use. Straight through the curtain. Production didn't play his music. There was no graphic. Backstage, things got even more surreal. Camera crews scrambled to catch him leaving. WWE's digital team rushed to grab an impromptu interview. Fans online were losing their minds. #Hikuleo was trending within minutes. Inside sources didn't even know what to make of it. Was this storyline? Was this part of a larger arc? Then, they got him. Standing alone in the hallway near the catering area, Hikuleo was approached by an interviewer who nervously held out a mic and asked, "Hikuleo, what was that all about?" He looked straight into the camera. No smile. No hesitation. This isn't just a visit. This is a takeover. Then came the rest. No one is safe. Titles, targets. Allies, temporary. Enemies, inevitable. That was all he said. No follow-up. He walked away, disappearing around a corner. The clip hit WWE's YouTube within 15 minutes. By the end of the night, it had over 2 million views. The commentary team didn't mention it again for the rest of the show. It was as if they didn't know what they were allowed to say. But the crowd in the arena couldn't stop buzzing. Online forums exploded with speculation. Wrestling podcasts had emergency live streams. Fan cams showed Tozawa being helped out of the ring, dazed. It wasn't scripted. At least, it didn't feel like it. This felt different. Unlike previous debuts that were overproduced or lost in crowd apathy, this was raw in the truest sense of the word. Unfiltered. Sudden. Violent. No lights. No pyro. No entrance pop. Just impact. Hikuleo sent a message without cutting a promo. He sent a warning without threatening anyone directly. He became the most talked about person in the wrestling world overnight by doing one thing WWE hasn't seen in years: he felt real. And if there's one thing fans recognize immediately, it's authenticity. By the next morning, everyone from Roman Reigns to Triple H had been tagged thousands of times across social platforms. Speculation ran wild. Had Roman sanctioned this? Was this a Bloodline power play? Or was it something else? WWE officials released no statement. No acknowledgement on social channels. No official debut banner. No match graphic for next week. Only silence. And silence, in WWE, speaks volumes. Hikuleo's Raw moment wasn't just a surprise debut. It was a calculated act of war. It introduced a new player not just into a storyline, but into WWE's very structure. The kind of move that isn't just meant to shock the crowd. It's meant to change the landscape. This wasn't someone looking to fit in. It was someone planning to burn the whole thing down. The impact of that moment is still rippling outward. And if you think that was all there is to it, you haven't been paying attention. To understand why Hikuleo's arrival is sending tremors through the WWE locker room, you need to understand who he is. Not just what he's done, but where he came from, what he represents, and why his presence in a WWE ring isn't just surprising, it's symbolic. This isn't some developmental call-up. Hikuleo didn't climb the ranks through NXT. He didn't cut his teeth in local circuits hoping for a performance center tryout. No. He was forged elsewhere. Under a lineage that doesn't need WWE's approval to validate its power. Hikuleo is the son of wrestling royalty. His father is Haku, a man widely regarded in wrestling circles as one of the most legitimate tough guys to ever step foot in a ring. Ask anyone. Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Rock. Jim Ross. Ric Flair. They'll all tell you the same thing: when Haku entered a room, you shut up and stood straight. His legacy isn't built on rumors, it's built on real fear and hard respect. In the world of kayfabe and real fights, Haku's reputation was bulletproof. That's Hikuleo's bloodline. But the legacy doesn't stop there. His brothers are Tonga and Tanga Loa, pillars of the Bullet Club and the Gorillas of Destiny, one of the most feared and respected tag teams in New Japan Pro Wrestling history. They weren't just champions, they were disruptors. Enforcers. Soldiers of chaos in the most unpredictable faction of modern wrestling. So Hikuleo didn't grow up trying to fit into wrestling. He was born in it. Raised in the eye of the storm. Surrounded by legends who didn't chase clout, they created it. And more importantly, he was raised in the Tongan warrior tradition. Respect, brutality, loyalty, and power, these weren't gimmicks. They were household values. When Hikuleo began wrestling in NJPW, he wasn't the focal point at first. He was quiet, watching, learning. He stood behind the chaos, absorbing, waiting. But when he finally stepped into the ring, his presence was impossible to ignore. 6 feet 8 inches. Over 260 pounds. The height of a giant, the intensity of a street fighter. He moves with the cold, calculated pace of someone who doesn't need to rush, because when he hits hard. Every move means something. No wasted motion. No flashy flips. Just damage. But he isn't just size. He has ring IQ, timing, and instincts built from years of watching masters of the craft do it at the highest level. He's fought in Japan, in high-stakes tournaments, in hardcore matches, in tag team wars. He's gone toe-to-toe with the best NJPW has to offer, Jay White, David Finlay, Shingo Takagi, and never looked out of place. More than once, he's been called the sleeper weapon of the Bullet Club. But what makes his presence in WWE so threatening isn't just what he's done, it's where he did it. New Japan Pro Wrestling isn't built like WWE. It's a different animal entirely. Less spectacle, more substance. Matches go longer. Finishers are earned. Respect is everything. You're not protected by storylines or promos. You earn your place with brutality, precision, and resilience. Hikuleo cut his teeth in a world where there are no handouts. Only impact. And now he's brought that philosophy to Raw. In WWE, stars are made through moments, catchphrases, entrances, big spots, mic time. But Hikuleo doesn't need that. He brings with him a different kind of energy, the kind that doesn't wait for the camera to find him. He walks in, and the room shifts. That's why the locker room is nervous. This isn't another indie darling hoping to get over. This is a man who didn't ask to be let in, he kicked the door open. His arrival didn't come with confetti. It came with a victim. And more are likely to follow. But beyond his physical dominance, it's his bloodline that makes this story explosive. Because for the past several years, WWE has revolved around another family. Another dynasty. Roman Reigns. The Usos. Solo Sikoa. The Inoue family. The Bloodline. Their narrative has been bulletproof. They're not just a faction, they're a ruling class. The story of modern WWE is inextricably tied to Roman Reigns' transformation from crowd-splitting hero to tribal tyrant. His reign as undisputed champion. His manipulation of his family. The rise and fall of alliances. It's been theater at its finest. But now, for the first time, someone with a legitimate claim to bloodline dominance has entered the picture. And he's not interested in joining. Hikuleo's arrival isn't about expansion. It's about challenge. He carries a legacy just as violent. Just as respected. Just as feared. And perhaps most dangerous of all, it's one that hasn't been diluted by WWE's machine. He's a pure variable. Untamed. Uncontrolled. There's history between the two families. Tension. Legacy. pride. But it's never exploded on this scale. Until now, the Tongan and Samoan legacies existed in parallel, acknowledging each other, but never colliding. That's over. When Hikuleo showed up on Raw, he didn't just shake the foundation of a show. He shattered the illusion that Roman Reigns was the only alpha left to face. And he did it without saying his name. Because he didn't have to. The message was implicit. This isn't about titles. This is about dominance. When you break it down, it's clear, Hikuleo represents the counterbalance. The shadow of the tribal chief. A rival who doesn't just match Roman in size and strength, but in lineage. In legitimacy. In mindset. And that's a threat Roman can't ignore. Because Roman's power has always been rooted in family. In loyalty. In structure. But Hikuleo doesn't need structure. He is structure. Built from a legacy outside of WWE's control. Answering to no one. In a world where Roman rules by loyalty, Hikuleo walks in with nothing to lose and no one to serve. That makes him unpredictable. Dangerous. The embodiment of chaos. And that, more than anything, makes him the most real threat Roman Reigns has faced in years. When a wrestler debuts, especially one from outside WWE, they usually follow a script, figuratively and literally. Smile for the crowd. Cut a safe promo. Hint at a few rivalries. Build anticipation. Ease in. Hikuleo did none of that. He skipped the match. Ignored the rules. Walked in, laid someone out, and disappeared before the production team knew how to respond. And when the camera finally caught up with him backstage, what he delivered wasn't a promo, it was a manifesto. 6 chilling lines, each one sharper than the last. Let's break it down. This isn't just a visit. This is a takeover. This wasn't an open invitation or a feel-good crossover moment. It wasn't a surprise guest spot to pop a rating. It was a declaration of intent. Hikuleo came to Raw not to observe, not to test the waters, but to take control. In one sentence, he did something very few have done successfully in WWE, he shifted the narrative instantly. Without needing weeks of build-up or multiple vignettes, he put everyone on notice. The phrase wasn't poetic. It was blunt. Purposeful. And dangerous. The word takeover carries weight in wrestling. It evokes invasions. Disruptions. Factions like the Nexus or NWO. But in this case, it wasn't plural. It wasn't we. It was I. This was personal. He's not waiting for backup. He's the backup. He's the front line. And then came the rest. No one is safe. This isn't hyperbole. In the wrestling world, a statement like this sends shockwaves. It means that titles won't protect you. Fan support won't protect you. Even being in the same faction as him won't give you immunity. He's not here to join a roster. He's here to expose it. Everyone is a target. That includes Roman Reigns. That includes Seth Rollins. That includes Cody Rhodes, Gunther, Kevin Owens, and yes, even the Usos. WWE has long operated on a hierarchy. Some people are untouchable. Others get fed to the machine. But Hikuleo's message disrupted that order. By saying no one is safe, he made it clear, status won't save you. Titles, targets. This is where his vision becomes tactical. He's not just here to prove a point. He's here for dominance. And he knows what dominance looks like in WWE, it looks like gold. Whether that's the World Heavyweight Championship, Intercontinental, Undisputed Tag, or the undisputed Universal title held by Roman, Hikuleo isn't playing favorites. He's putting crosshairs on everything. This isn't about working his way up. He's not going to spend 6 months in mid-card purgatory. He's shown up with a plan, to fast-track his way through the system by force. This also isn't just a threat to Roman. It's a threat to every champion who thought they were untouchable. It's a warning that title reigns have expiry dates. And that the one coming to collect doesn't believe in slow burns. Allies, temporary. Here's where the mind games begin. In a company filled with stables, friends, betrayals, and brotherhoods, Hikuleo draws a hard line. He's not here to make friends. Not long-term ones, anyway. He's telling everyone up front, you might ride with me today, but don't expect a handshake tomorrow. This is transactional. Temporary. A means to an end. The Bloodline built its power on loyalty. On the illusion that family stands above everything. Hikuleo dismantles that illusion in 5 syllables. He's not building a kingdom. He's marching alone. This is a warning not just to enemies, but to potential allies. You may fight beside him, but never behind him. Enemies, inevitable. This is the apex of the warning. It's not a possibility. It's not a maybe. It's a guarantee. Hikuleo isn't avoiding confrontation. He's seeking it. He knows the locker room is full of pride, ego, and established pecking orders. He knows he's walking into enemy territory. And instead of asking for peace, he's planting flags. He's not trying to avoid enemies. He's manufacturing them. This kind of psychology is rare in modern WWE. Most stars spend their early runs avoiding controversy, trying to get over with the crowd, backstage, and the booking team. Hikuleo skipped that step. He's bringing the fight. And here's the deeper layer, by making enemies inevitable, he forces everyone around him to make a choice. Stand up to him? Get flattened. Align with him? Just know your time is limited. Stay out of it? He's still coming. This 6-part warning isn't just soundbite material. It's a war map. A coded message to everyone from the locker room to the corporate office. He's telling everyone where he stands. And it's not behind anyone. And the most chilling part? He meant every word. There was no smirk. No dramatic flair. No punchline. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked into the camera, said what he needed to say, and walked away. There was finality in his tone. As if the decision had already been made. As if the war had already begun. You don't get that kind of authenticity by accident. Every word was placed with purpose. No filler. No pandering. Just clarity. It reminded people of the early days of Brock Lesnar, when a man so physically dominant didn't need to talk much. Because when he did, people listened. The warning also established something bigger: control. Control is everything in WWE. It's not just about matches. It's about momentum. Power. Narrative. Roman Reigns has held that power for years. Not just through his championship run, but through perception. Through the bloodline. Through intimidation. But Hikuleo's message didn't bend to that structure. It didn't acknowledge Roman's dominance. It didn't pay tribute. It didn't seek permission. It disrupted everything. When Hikuleo said takeover, he wasn't talking about just matches. He was talking about tempo. About tone. About changing the conversation entirely. Because now, when people talk about Raw, they're not just talking about Cody's redemption arc. Or Seth's title defenses. Or Rhea's dominance. They're talking about Hikuleo. That's power. And the warning did what few promos in wrestling ever truly do: it shifted fear. The locker room used to fear Roman. Now, it's split. Now there's someone else in the room. And he's not playing by anyone's rules. The moment Hikuleo left the backstage corridor and disappeared from view, Raw didn't feel the same. Production resumed. Matches carried on. The commentary team got their notes back in line. But behind the curtain, everything had shifted. Not just in terms of storyline, but in real-time panic, confusion, and raw tension. No one knew who had approved it. Was this a last-minute call from Triple H? Did Creative even know it was happening? Was Hikuleo signed already, or did he just show up with legal clearance in hand? Even veterans didn't have answers. And in a locker room that thrives on predictability and structure, unpredictability is pure chaos. Backstage agents like Michael Hayes and Jamie Noble were seen on their phones. Security staff were repositioned. Runners whispered updates to the gorilla position. One source said a top-level producer thought Hikuleo was showing up next month, not this week. Another claimed he wasn't even on the internal talent run sheet. Whatever the truth, his arrival created a ripple effect behind the scenes that went beyond his beatdown of Tozawa. Let's start with Roman Reigns. Though Roman wasn't physically present at that episode of Raw, the Bloodline headquarters is always watching. Reports suggest Paul Heyman was made aware of the segment in real time, possibly through production feeds or direct comms from Creative. One insider claimed Heyman asked 3 words when Hikuleo's segment aired: "Was this cleared?" Whether that's true or just locker room folklore, it captures the vibe perfectly. The Bloodline, despite its iron grip on WWE storytelling, is used to control. Reigns is not a man who shares the spotlight. And Hikuleo didn't just share it, he seized it. Without permission. Without reverence. Sources close to Heyman's camp say the wise man was visibly intrigued but not rattled, a sign that strategy was already being drafted. This isn't Heyman's first war, and he knows how to manipulate momentum. But even for him, this move raised eyebrows. The Bloodline narrative was already crowded, Solo Sikoa rising, the Usos fracturing, Jacob Fatu waiting in the wings. Add Hikuleo to the mix? It turns the chessboard into a minefield. And then there's Solo Sikoa. The enforcer. The quiet storm. The man who's proven more loyal to Roman than his own brothers. But loyalty comes with tension. And Hikuleo's arrival may force Solo to reassess his place. Because there's history between them. Tongan and Samoan legacies run parallel, and Hikuleo's family, Tanga Loa, has always maintained a proud distance from Roman's faction. They've never bowed. Never aligned. If anything, there's unresolved respect, and unspoken rivalry. Imagine being Solo. You're Roman's weapon. His muscle. His future heir to the Bloodline Empire. And suddenly, a man your size, with your intensity, walks in and says, "No one is safe." That's not a threat. That's a challenge. There's already speculation that Solo is being positioned to face Hikuleo sooner than later. Not in a promotional feud, but in a test of dominance. A silent war between 2 warriors bred for this business. A match that wouldn't need promos, just stare-downs, bruises, and silence between strikes. Meanwhile, the rest of the locker room is reacting too. Cody Rhodes, the company's lead babyface, reportedly responded to the debut backstage by saying, "Well damn. Short. Honest. Direct." Sources say Cody views Hikuleo as a real shake-up, and possibly a new mountain to climb if the Bloodline saga ever detours. Seth Rollins was more playful in his response, joking to a backstage camera crew, "I guess it's tall guy season again." But make no mistake, even Rollins knows what this means. He's been the workhorse champion for months, but Hikuleo just flipped the hierarchy. Then there's the mid-card, and this is where the nerves are loudest. Because Hikuleo didn't debut by confronting the main event. He started from the shadows. Picked off Tozawa. Someone harmless. Someone not protected. And that, more than anything, terrified the middle of the roster. Guys like Ricochet, Chad Gable, Apollo Crews, Cedric Alexander, they live on the edge of storylines. One push away from relevance. One bad match away from being forgotten. For them, a threat like Hikuleo is destabilizing. He doesn't need a program. He doesn't need a build-up. He just needs a target. And his message made it clear, anyone can be that target. Even factions like Judgment Day and Imperium aren't safe. Rumors are already flying that Creative is drafting backup plans for everyone holding gold. Gunther's reign has been long and dominant, but Hikuleo's style is uniquely designed to test that formula. He's bigger than most of Gunther's challengers. Slower, yes, but more methodical. More dangerous. The digital team at WWE has also felt the shock. Hikuleo's backstage promo clip was the fastest-growing video of the night, beating even Cody's weekly Mic Time and Rhea Ripley's segments. That's data WWE can't ignore. It's engagement. It's heat. And more importantly, it's leverage. And leverage equals storylines. Creative meetings held immediately after Raw reportedly discussed 3 different entry points for Hikuleo's next appearance. One has him confronting Paul Heyman directly. Another throws him into a match with Solo. A third, most daring, has him staring down Roman himself before SummerSlam. What makes this fallout even more chaotic is how quickly WWE talent began reacting online. Tama Tonga posted a cryptic tweet just minutes after the show ended, "Timing is everything." Jay White, now working with AEW, even responded, "You love to see it." And then there was Roman. Silence. No tweet. No post. Not even a repost of any Bloodline content. When Roman is silent, it's intentional. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because now, the question isn't just how Hikuleo will be used, but how Roman will respond. Will he address it in character? Will he dismiss it? Or worse, will he ignore it and let others handle it? Either way, the fallout is undeniable. There's confusion in the locker room. Tension in the air. Agents reshuffling match cards. Creative rewriting segments. Fan forums flooded with theories. Some believe Hikuleo is building his own faction. Others think he's a hired gun sent to destabilize the Bloodline. A few believe this is the start of a full-blown Samoan versus Tongan war, something that hasn't played out in wrestling before on this scale. But here's what we do know, something changed that night. A debut doesn't usually have this kind of impact. A lot of guys show up, make a splash, disappear in the shuffle. But Hikuleo's arrival was different. It didn't feel orchestrated. It felt inevitable. And when inevitability meets raw presence, you get fallout like this. People are watching their backs. Writers are shuffling storylines. And the Bloodline isn't just preparing for war, they're trying to figure out who fired the first shot. In professional wrestling, timing is everything. It's not just about what you do, it's when you do it. The impact of a surprise moment hinges on context, the state of the roster, the arcs in play, the fan sentiment, and the company's direction. Hikuleo's arrival on Raw wasn't just explosive because of how he showed up. It was devastating because of when he chose to do it. Let's look at the landscape he just walked into. Roman Reigns has been the face of WWE for nearly 4 years, anchoring the company with his tribal chief persona and undisputed championship reign. The Bloodline saga has evolved from a one-man act into a sprawling, layered epic filled with betrayal, family drama, and internal warfare. But here's the truth, even great empires eventually reach a tipping point. And for the Bloodline, that tipping point is now. The Usos are split. Solo Sikoa is operating with increasing independence. Roman has shown vulnerability, emotionally, strategically, and physically. His schedule is more limited. His reaction slower. The cracks are there. Meanwhile, on the Raw side, a vacuum exists. Seth Rollins may be holding the World Heavyweight title, but that belt is still establishing itself. Cody Rhodes, despite his popularity, hasn't found a permanent lane after his WrestleMania loss. Rhea Ripley is dominating the women's division, but the men's scene lacks an unshakable apex predator. In other words, the timing couldn't have been better for chaos to enter. Hikuleo didn't insert himself into a stable system. He walked into a fragile one. A system already bloated with pride, desperate for disruption, and starving for a new kind of threat. Why now? Because now, everyone is vulnerable. Roman isn't invincible anymore. Seth is too distracted to see it coming. Cody's redemption arc has cooled off. And everyone else is either stuck in mid-card loops or faction turf wars that can be flipped upside down with the right nudge. But timing goes deeper than just storyline. From a business perspective, WWE is also in a moment of evolution. With the merger under the TKO Group, there's a renewed emphasis on global influence, cross-promotions, and fresh blood. The company is looking outward, scanning the world for stars who don't just fit the mold, but redefine it. Hikuleo checks every box. He brings with him international experience, Bullet Club pedigree, real-world toughness, and a legitimate family legacy that even casual fans can recognize. He's part of a new generation of talent that didn't grow up watching WWE from the sidelines. They grew up in locker rooms, on the road, trained by killers and legends. He's not entering this system to be molded. He's entering it to take what he wants. And WWE needs that right now. The last time the product felt genuinely unpredictable was during the early Shield era, or when Brock Lesnar first returned and began tearing through everyone. Fans crave unpredictability. They want chaos. They want someone who doesn't care about doing things the WWE way. Hikuleo embodies that energy. He's a monster, but not a monster who follows orders. He's not the kind of giant who gets fed to top stars in 6-minute squash matches and then fades away. He's methodical. He's young. He's not coming in at the tail end of a career. He's coming in with years ahead, and no interest in wasting them. There's also something more subtle at play here: fan fatigue. As much as fans respect the Bloodline story, many have grown tired of its dominance. There's been a growing hunger for something to shake the narrative. Not just another challenger, fans have seen those come and go. Not just another Paul Heyman scheme. Not just another Bloodline implosion. Something outside the Bloodline entirely. Enter Hikuleo. He didn't just arrive at the right time from a business perspective. He arrived at the exact moment the audience was begging. Whether they realized it or not, for someone like him. Someone with real-world weight. Someone with mystery. Someone who didn't come in smiling and posing. Someone who simply showed up and told the world the rules had changed. Why now? Because now, the status quo was weak enough to shatter. The Usos aren't aligned. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are distracted. Judgment Day is splintering from within. The Hurt Business hasn't returned. No faction has the internal strength or external legitimacy to check Hikuleo without Roman stepping in himself. And that's the genius of the timing: it forces Roman to acknowledge the outside world again. For years, Roman's story has been inward-facing, fighting his cousins, controlling his brothers, bending Solo to his will. But now, Hikuleo has broken that containment. He's not a part of Roman's family, but he's adjacent. He's close enough to demand attention, but not close enough to be controlled. That tension is nuclear. Roman can't ignore him without looking weak. But confronting him risks exposing his vulnerabilities. Hikuleo isn't Sami Zayn. He's not Kevin Owens. He's not Cody. He's not fighting for justice, friendship, or respect. He's fighting because that's all he's ever known. And from a global wrestling perspective, the timing is even sharper. NJPW has had a banner year. Bullet Club Gold has dominated headlines in AEW. The global scene is bleeding into WWE, and fans are starting to see cross-promotional legacies taking root. Hikuleo is a bridge. A symbol of that bleed-through. His arrival isn't just about Raw or Roman. It's about what happens when the invisible walls between companies start to break down. When WWE has to acknowledge that talent built outside of its system might not only be equal, but superior. That realization changes everything. WWE thrives when its universe feels expansive. When new faces bring in unfamiliar styles, attitudes, and ideologies. And Hikuleo brings all of that in one devastating package. His debut wasn't random. It was calculated. Drop him into Raw just as Roman's empire is teetering. Just as Seth's vision is losing clarity. Just as the locker room is bloated with complacency. Just as the fans are craving a shift. Why now? Because now is the only time a takeover could work. Not last year. Not next year. Now. Hikuleo didn't kick the door down because it was locked. He kicked it down because the hinges were already loose. All it took was one solid boot. And the whole structure trembled. WWE runs on power. Every show, every storyline, every belt is a reflection of who holds power and who's trying to take it. Roman Reigns has held that power for nearly 4 years, not just through title reigns, but through fear, legacy, and control. Seth Rollins carries the workhorse banner on Raw. Cody Rhodes carries the emotional weight of legacy. Rhea Ripley dominates the women's division with undeniable presence. But now, the balance has shifted. With Hikuleo's arrival, everything recalibrates. Let's start with Raw. Raw has been a show in flux since Triple H took over creative. It's longer, more wrestling-heavy, more unpredictable, but it's also lacked a singular monster. Someone who doesn't play the political game. Someone who doesn't entertain backstage segments or 10-minute monologues. Someone who makes a statement with presence, not paragraphs. Enter Hikuleo. In one night, he became the biggest physical presence on Raw. That alone is enough to shift booking. Size, when paired with credibility, changes everything. And Hikuleo isn't just tall, he's violent. He's unbothered. He doesn't wear fear, and he doesn't carry loyalty. That unpredictability will force everyone on Raw to adjust. For someone like Seth Rollins, this creates immediate tension. Seth is champion because he's resilient, agile, and a master manipulator of tempo. He's built himself into a world champion who outthinks his enemies. But Hikuleo doesn't play chess. He flips the board and lets the dust decide the winner. Rollins would have to fight differently against someone like Hikuleo. The architect becomes the prey if the ring becomes a war zone. And Seth knows that. Meanwhile, Cody Rhodes, Raw's heart and soul, could be pushed into a more reactive role. Cody thrives on redemption arcs and emotional storytelling, but what if he's forced into a fight with someone who doesn't care about his story? Hikuleo isn't here for personal grudges. He doesn't want Dusty's legacy. He wants power. And that shift will force Cody to respond differently. Emotion won't sway Hikuleo. Fire won't shake him. That means Cody, for once, may need to abandon heart and lean into ruthlessness. Even in the mid-card, the dynamic is wrecked. Someone like Bronson Reed, who has been slowly climbing the ladder, now finds himself second tier in the size and destruction category. Gable, Ricochet, Nakamura, all will have to be booked around Hikuleo's looming presence. Not because they're being buried, but because every match now carries more risk. Let's say Hikuleo is backstage watching. That alone keeps competitors looking over their shoulders. It builds tension. The kind of tension Raw hasn't had in years. Then there's the tag division. The moment Hikuleo steps into tag territory, the entire scene becomes combustible. Imagine him teaming with Tama Tonga, Bloodline versus Guerrillas of Destiny in WWE, finally. The Usos, who've built themselves as the greatest tag team in modern wrestling, suddenly find themselves staring down a team just as dangerous, just as bonded, and just as hungry for dominance. This isn't just fan fantasy. It's now a very real possibility. And the beauty of it? It doesn't have to start as a title feud. It can start with tension. A stare down. A history lesson. It can build organically, because the weight of the legacy sells itself. Now shift to SmackDown. SmackDown is Roman's domain. The island of relevancy. The heart of the Bloodline. That island just got invaded. Hikuleo hasn't set foot on SmackDown yet, but his presence on Raw has already been felt across both brands. Roman doesn't ignore threats. Especially not those tied to his own legacy. Especially not those with family ties that trace back to Haku, someone even Roman has likely studied and respected. What does this mean for Roman? It means the spotlight now has a shadow. Roman has operated from the top without peer. Yes, he's been challenged. Yes, he's been pushed. But no one has ever arrived with zero fear and total disregard for his hierarchy. Hikuleo didn't mention Roman by name, but he might as well have carved it into concrete. No one is safe. Roman knows exactly what that means. And it puts Paul Heyman in a difficult position. Heyman's entire strategy is to anticipate threats before they materialize. But Hikuleo isn't a threat you prep for. He doesn't follow the script. He arrives and forces you to react. For someone as calculating as Heyman, that's a nightmare. SmackDown's Bloodline story is already fracturing. Jay is gone. Jimmy is lost. Solo is starting to think for himself. Roman is left with control, but not trust. He rules, but his kingdom is wobbling. Hikuleo walking in at this exact moment turns pressure into panic. Because now Roman doesn't just have to repair his family, he has to defend it. And defending it against someone who doesn't respect the rules is a different kind of fight. Even the women's division may feel this ripple. Rhea Ripley, dominant as she is, exists in a faction system. Judgment Day is unstable. Hikuleo's arrival destabilizes even more. Alliances will get tighter. Distrust will rise. You don't invite chaos without expecting it to spread. And this power shift extends to creative. Writers, producers, and agents are now forced to think differently. Segments are no longer safe. Who's in Gorilla? Who's walking past catering during a live taping? Who's vulnerable mid-match? It adds real-time danger back to weekly programming. You don't know when Hikuleo will appear next. You don't know what show he'll target. You don't even know if he's been assigned a brand officially. That mystery alone gives him power. And in wrestling, mystery is currency. The shows are now less about planning and more about surviving. That's not just a vibe. That's a systemic change in the flow of Raw and SmackDown. It brings urgency. It brings edge. It brings the kind of weekly unpredictability that made the Attitude Era feel alive. The ripple effect is undeniable. Power is no longer consolidated. Roman still holds the crown. Seth still holds the work rate. Cody still holds the emotion. But Hikuleo just walked in with the chaos. And now everything is up for grabs. For over a decade, Roman Reigns has been WWE's measuring stick. Physique. Promo. Presence. Dominance. Love him or hate him, Roman has set the tone for what it means to be a main event force in the modern era. He commands attention with a glare, manipulates emotion with a whisper, and shuts down arenas with a single spear. His evolution from the big dog to the tribal chief redefined his legacy. But now, for the first time in years, someone has walked into WWE who matches him in ways that matter, and threatens him in the ways that count. That someone is Hikuleo. Let's break it down, point by point, starting with the obvious, physicality. Roman Reigns is a powerhouse. 6'3". Roughly 265 pounds. Sculpted. Athletic. He's proven he can go the distance, 30, 40, even 60-minute matches without missing a beat. His stamina, agility, and calculated pacing are rare for someone with his build. He's the prototype. But Hikuleo? He's a different breed. 6'8". Towering. Leaner, but no less powerful. He doesn't move like a lumbering giant. He moves like a panther in slow motion. When he strikes, it's with bad intentions. And when he walks into a room, the silence is immediate. He brings the kind of presence that doesn't require posturing. Roman dominates because of control. Hikuleo dominates because of unpredictability. And that difference matters. Charisma. Roman Reigns didn't start as a charismatic leader. He grew into it. Over time, with Heyman's guidance, he learned to control the narrative. Short promos. Slow delivery. Subtle facial cues. A calm storm. His words carry weight because he makes people wait for them. Hikuleo is different. He doesn't talk often, but when he does, it lands like a hammer. There's no excess. No promo fluff. He gives you the headline and walks away. That stoicism? It's not silence, it's strategy. The kind that forces fans, commentators, and even rivals to fill in the blanks themselves. And in wrestling, mystery is power. Where Roman leads with a cold, calculated calm, Hikuleo leads with an unnerving stillness. The difference? Roman wants to be acknowledged. Hikuleo doesn't care if you see him coming. In-ring style. Roman's matches are built on structure. He paces things out. Slows the tempo. Tells a story. He picks apart his opponents, mind, body, and spirit. Whether it's Daniel Bryan, Drew McIntyre, or Cody Rhodes, Roman breaks you down piece by piece. Hikuleo's style is far less polished, but far more dangerous. He doesn't dissect opponents, he erases them. His offense is sudden. Snaps a chokeslam out of nowhere. Hits a lariat that sounds like a gunshot. He's not methodical like Roman. He's volatile. That means game planning for him is harder. He's not predictable. He's not rhythm-based. He's chaos in motion. If Roman is a tactician, Hikuleo is an ambush predator. You won't see the hit coming, and when it lands, it won't matter how good your footwork was. Psychology. Roman Reigns is a master manipulator. He gets in your head. Makes you question your allies. Uses your past against you. His feuds with Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and Cody Rhodes were emotional warfare. He's a puppet master with gold around his waist. Hikuleo doesn't manipulate. He invades. His presence is enough to destabilize a room. He doesn't have to cut a 3-week promo build to sell a fight. He shows up. Stares down the champ. Maybe drops one line. Then he strikes. That lack of emotional manipulation is itself a mind game. You can't get in his head because there's nothing in there to exploit. No regret. No desire for legacy. No thirst for approval. Just mission. And that's what Roman fears most, an opponent who can't be shaken. Legacy. Roman Reigns is a direct descendant of the Anoa'i dynasty. A bloodline that spans generations. He's family to The Rock. Nephew to the Wild Samoans. Cousin to Rikishi, the Usos, and Solo Sikoa. His name is carved into the history of wrestling, and his current reign only solidifies it. But Hikuleo? He comes from royalty of a different kind. Son of Haku, a man who wasn't just feared in character but feared in real life. Haku is the godfather of pain. If Roman's lineage made him famous, Hikuleo's made him feared. He also carries the weight of the Gorillas of Destiny, a faction that earned its reputation not through WWE glitz but through New Japan grit. His brothers, Tama Tonga and Tanga Loa, ran Bullet Club when it was at its most savage. They weren't built on catchphrases, they were built on destruction. This is where things get complex. Both men carry legacy. But one comes from a legacy of status, while the other comes from a legacy of danger. Roman wears a crown. Hikuleo wields a sledgehammer. Fan perception. Roman is polarizing. Always has been. WWE tried to make him the next Cena, clean-cut, smiling, catchphrase ready. It failed. The boos were deafening. Only when he embraced his darkness did he become what he was always meant to be, a villain the fans couldn't ignore. Now he gets respect, not just for his performance, but for finally being authentic. But he's still a known quantity. Hikuleo, on the other hand, is an unknown. That's his greatest weapon. The casual fan sees a monster. The hardcore fan sees potential. The global fan sees the bridge between NJPW chaos and WWE order. There are no expectations, only fear. And that's rare in today's overexposed landscape. Everyone has seen everything. But Hikuleo brings a feeling that's almost extinct in wrestling: unpredictability. Motivation. Roman wants control. Power. Recognition. His character arc revolves around respect. Dominance. Tribal acknowledgement. He needs the belt because it validates his claim as the top dog. Hikuleo doesn't seem to want any of that. He didn't call anyone out by name. He didn't name a title. He didn't cut a promo about redemption or earning respect. He said he was here for a takeover. That's it. This makes him more dangerous. A man chasing legacy can be reasoned with. A man chasing revenge can be manipulated. But a man chasing chaos? He can't be bought. Can't be flattered. Can't be stopped. And that's where he matches up most powerfully with Roman. For years, Roman has been the hunter. But now, a new predator has entered the jungle. One who doesn't follow the same instincts. One who doesn't wait his turn. One who doesn't want your crown, he wants the whole kingdom to burn.